Welcome to today's Explainer. So today we're diving into a cultural obsession that pretty much all of us share, but honestly very few people actually stop to question, and that is modern travel. You know, in our culture right now, the passport has almost replaced the prayer book. Travel has reached this near sacred, untouchable status. It's constantly marketed to us as this guaranteed universal path to self-discovery, instant joy, and total freedom. But there's a massive paradox going on here. Because despite all that incredible marketing, so many of us come back from these grand, once-in-a-lifetime adventures feeling completely and utterly exhausted.
Which brings us to kind of a controversial question. Is travel actually overrated? Now, I know even asking that out loud feels a little bit heretical today, right? I mean, it is the ultimate modern aspiration. But when we take a step back and really look at the research and just the deeply relatable human experience behind packing up and crossing the globe, we start to see a profound cognitive dissonance. There's this huge echoing gap between the romanticized dream of the trip we plan in our heads and the actual grueling reality of what we experience once we get there.
Let's actually break this down. Think about the socially accepted hype. We're promised instant joy, this boundless sense of freedom, maybe a guaranteed epiphany while looking at a sunset on a mountaintop. But then, look at the functional reality. Moving your body across the planet is stressful. It's logistical headaches. It's standing in endless security queues with thousands of other frustrated people. It's being in a profound, constant state of decision fatigue. The romantic narrative we're sold just doesn't quite match up with the reality on the ground.
All right, moving into Section 1. You bring yourself with you.
To really understand why that gap between the dream and the reality exists, we have to look inward. We have to look at this false belief that just changing your geography is somehow going to magically cure your internal struggles. The Stoic philosophers, they actually nailed this thousands of years ago. They said, wherever you go, there you are. I mean, the biggest myth of modern travel is that changing your scenery creates a fundamental change in who you are. We're essentially using travel as an external fix for an internal problem. But the truth? Your anxieties, your relationship patterns, your deepest insecurities, they board the plane right alongside you. They just fly for free.
It's super relatable, isn't it? We all pack our bags, hoping to transform into this new you. You know, the enlightened, completely stress-free global nomad wandering down a charming cobblestone street. But in reality, we almost always end up as the exact same old you. We've got the same problems, the same restless mind, except now we're dealing with them in a totally unfamiliar place, and usually with a significantly higher credit card balance hanging over our heads. Changing your zip code doesn't just instantly fix a lack of purpose.
So that whole cliche of finding yourself abroad, it's fundamentally flawed. If you dig into human psychology, true personal growth and genuine self-knowledge, they rarely happen because you took a 2-week vacation. Real growth comes from sustained relationships. It comes from sticking out difficult commitments, doing honest work, and sitting in quiet reflection. And the best part is, absolutely none of those things require a passport or an expensive transatlantic flight.
Which leads us to Section 2, the high complexity tax. Because look, even if your mind is perfectly at peace, the sheer logistical nightmare of modern tourism will absolutely drain you. Travel is sold as ultimate freedom, but check out these hidden costs. The friction of movement is just immense. You're dealing with flight delays, sudden visa hurdles, exhausting language barriers. On top of that, your body is physically taking a hit, disrupted sleep, totally different diets, jet lag. For anybody who relies on routine and high-level focus in their daily life, this imposes a massive complexity tax. It shatters your productive habits and swaps them out for this constant low-grade decision fatigue. You're constantly having to figure out where to eat, how the transit system works, and what you're supposed to do next.
To put that into perspective, just look at this metric: 1 week. Because of that massive complexity tax we were just talking about, a lot of people find they literally need a full week of recovery at home just to survive their relaxing vacation. Such a relatable irony, right? We spend our first week back at home recovering from our holiday instead of actually feeling restored by it.
And honestly, beyond just our own personal exhaustion, the sources point out there's a broader structural reality to mass tourism too. Chasing all this novelty has real external costs. There's the enormous carbon footprint of international flights, which kind of clashes with the whole ideal of being an Earth-loving world traveler. There's the physical wear and tear on overcrowded ancient sites. We also see spiking local housing costs, and this really common phenomenon where authentic local cultures get replaced by sanitized, performative versions that are designed entirely for tourists to consume.
Okay, moving to Section 3, novelty versus real depth.
Now say you manage the logistics perfectly. You're an incredibly responsible traveler. Even then, really frequent travelers often report hitting this wall of creeping emotional numbness. And to get why this happens, we have to talk about a psychological concept called hedonic adaptation. Basically, it's our brain's tendency to quickly get used to things. Novelty is a finite resource, guys. The first time you stand in front of an ancient temple, it is absolutely breathtaking. But by the 10th temple, your brain just kind of adapts. The cathedrals and the street markets literally start blurring together. And to get that same initial high of awe, you suddenly feel like you need to go to increasingly exotic, remote, and expensive destinations.
This really maps out the stark difference between how we usually travel and what we're actually craving deep down. Think about the tourist gaze. That's just skimming the surface. It's passive. It's ticking boxes off a checklist. A lot of the time, it's performative status signaling just for the Instagram aesthetic, where you're only interacting with a highly curated version of a place. Contrast that with real connection. Connection requires a slow, unassuming presence. It requires deep, rooted relationships and genuinely engaging with a place in a nuanced, sustained way.
It's like we often confuse a frantic, fast-paced itinerary with gaining actual worldly wisdom. But the truth is, spending 3 fast days jumping around a complex, ancient city like Kyoto, that only gives you surface-level impressions. It absolutely does not give you understanding. Real intimacy with a place, actually grasping its language and its subtle, everyday rhythms, that takes years of being there.
So let's look at Section 4, a new way to wander.
So what's the takeaway here? Do we just burn our passports and never leave the house? Definitely not. Travel is an absolutely incredible tool for gaining perspective, but we really need to reframe how and why we do it. So here are 3 practical steps to decouple travel from all that stressful status signaling. Number 1, be intentional and go slower. Focus on deep exploration of just 1 or 2 places instead of frantically rushing through a checklist. Number 2, remain curiosity-driven. Go somewhere with genuine humility and a desire to learn, not just to document the fact that you were there for social media. And number 3, stay rooted. Start viewing travel as a supplement to a great life, rather than a frantic escape from a bad one.
And staying rooted, that really means championing the massive value of the unexplored local. We are so often obsessed with the elsewhere that we become completely blind to how rich our own backyards are. Think about the opportunity cost of constantly chasing international trips. Those exact same funds and that same amount of time could be invested in meaningful things right where you are. Paying down debt, mastering a complex new hobby, actually getting to know your neighbors, or just diving deep into the fascinating history of your own hometown.
Because the absolute crucial point here is this. The deepest irony of modern travel is that the quiet, rooted, and unhurried life that so many people spend thousands of dollars trying to find on the other side of the world is exactly the life they should be actively building at home. True, lasting transformation depends way more on how you live every single day rather than on how many pins you have in a map.
So, I want to leave you with a completely new lens for the next time you open a tab to book a flight. Ask yourself this one, deeply important question. Are you truly running toward a genuine interest, or are you just running away from home? It's kind of a heavy thought, I know, but answering that honestly, that might just be the most transformative journey you ever take. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.